Chapter 17, The Boss Room. Do you want to sell Upper Goblin remains to the merchant? As I figured. Selling items together, like the entire Upper Goblin and the item bag, is counted only as one sale. That's useful and convenient, but I should get a lot more money if I sell each item separately. Kaido thinks aloud and looks at the corpse before him. Anyway, I wouldn't have the courage to gut and sell the monster organs separately. I'll stick to the easier method, at least for this kind of case. Without further delay, Kaido sold the 2 corpses of the Upper Goblins he killed. You received 25 bronze coins from the merchant. You received 25 bronze coins from the merchant. By selling the corpses of the Upper Goblins to the merchant, Kaido receives a few bronze coins for each one. Although it is not a significant amount, it is better than selling the things he has at home to get food. With fatigue weighing on him, Kaido decides it's better not to risk staying where he is any longer with the chance of encountering patrolling goblins. So he makes his way down the brick corridor, heading toward the mysterious light at the end of it. The path is dark and surprisingly empty. However, all this quickly becomes irrelevant, because the sound of echoing drums are certainly more eye-catching and intimidating than the darkness surrounding Kaido. Kaido continues to walk down the brick corridor toward the end, and his heart gets faster and faster and tension pulses in every fiber of his being. Each step seems heavier and slower, as if his own subconscious is trying to stop him. As he advances, Kaido keeps his hearing sharp and his senses on alert. Reaching the end of the corridor, Kaido peers into the chamber that is revealed before him. His eyes scan the room quickly, taking in the details as he tries to analyze the situation. The chamber is large and lit by the intense glow of flames. In the center of the place, the shaman goblin stands out with his sinister appearance. His scaly green skin glows in the light of the flames, and his eyes also emit a menacing red glow, with no pupils, sclera, or any part that resembles an ordinary eye, just glowing like 2 light bulbs. In addition, he wears a hood, which covers part of his head, and he is much larger physically even than the Upper Goblins, who become small next to him. Around the shaman, several other goblins are present, each with its own peculiar appearance. Some have less greenish skin, have sharp fangs, and other ordinary goblins carry improvised spears and shields. All are dancing near the center, for some reason. Kaido's eyes meet his group mates as he scans the room with a glance. Lord Ishikawa looks exhausted and has a lot of blood running down his head. Yet he still seems conscious as he is tied to a stake, protected by some superior goblins. Maya, Ayumi, and Borha are a little to the side, all with gags over their mouths and ropes binding their limbs. They are inside a reinforced wooden cage and seem to be just waiting for the shaman to finish preparing whatever it is he is preparing in the large metal cauldron in the center of the chamber. As Kaido contemplates this whole situation, he feels more than a simple shiver as he felt before. He feels a mixture of fear, anger, concern, and determination. The hope that everyone can still get out of this awakens an inner fire in Kaido. The tension in the air is palpable, the drums echo louder and louder, increasing Kaido's anxiety, as well as causing sound pollution that contrasts with the chaotic visuals. He knows he must act quickly and carefully if he is to have any chance of saving his companions and facing the powerful shaman goblin, but all this noise gets in the way of his thoughts. Suddenly, his eyes are fixed on a nearby shelf farther away from the cauldron. This shelf seems to be full of jars and unknown objects. There may be something useful there. With dagger in hand, Kaido assesses his position in the room. He watches the movements of the goblins around the shaman and realizes that there is a gap in their vision, although they are always moving, a small opening where he can slip in unnoticed. So Kaido looks both ways and enters the chamber, stepping cautiously on tiptoe, trying to avoid being detected by the goblins and using the pillars to hide from the goblins who seem to be more on the lookout. He knows that his every move must be precise and silent, and his luck is that the goblins are not smart enough to suspect that he may have made it this far. Getting close to the shelf, Kaido sees that the jars are much larger up close. These jars are almost the size of entire gallons of water, but Kaido examines them carefully, looking for something he can use in his strategy. However, all the labels are in the language of the goblins, and he is unable to understand. His fingers run across the cold surfaces of the different colored containers until he finds a jar containing a shiny substance that he thinks he recognizes, and then he has an idea to check whether it is right or not. Sell, he thinks, touching the vial with the silver, shiny substance. Sale of sleep potion. Blocked. You do not own this item, so you cannot sell it. A subtle smile forms on his lips. Kaito knows that this potion could be the key to creating a rescue opportunity for his friends, even more so in a large quantity like this. In Death Tower, this potion was the key to defeat the boss on the 33rd floor. Maybe it will also be the key to defeat this shaman goblin. The only problem is that this bottle is too big and heavy to carry anywhere near the shaman, so Kaito has to think of another solution. After a few seconds, he comes to a conclusion. Maybe it is not possible to use this to finish off the goblin shaman, but I can use it to decrease the number of goblins and create chaos. Kaito thinks and touches the wood of the bookcase to test something. Soon he hears the wood creak. The creaking of the wood makes Kaito stop for a moment, fearing that the sound might alert the goblins to his presence. He stands still, waiting to see if any of the goblins react to the noise. Luckily for him, it seems that the sound has gone unnoticed by his enemies thanks to the incessant drumming. Feeling a momentary relief, Kaito gets another idea thanks to the creaking of the bookcase, which demonstrates how weak this structure is. If I knock that bookcase down, it will cause a big fuss, and even if I don't physically hit any goblin, they will come closer to check what's going on, and if I'm right, at that amount the scent of that potion will be enough for them to have the best sleep of their lives. Chapter 18. Caged. After some quick thinking, Kaito precisely pushed the weak structure of the potion rack, making it shake and give way. The first glass jars begin to fall rapidly, creating a strong, harsh sound that echoes through the room. Other glass vials crash into each other just before falling to the floor, producing loud bangs and making the sound reverberate through the chamber. With each falling vial, a sharp, piercing noise fills the room. The goblins were immediately alerted by the sudden noises, and after a single moment, they got to a state of alert as they stopped the drumming music, leaving a deep silence. And when finally the entire bookcase finishes falling, a loud bang resounds and echoes throughout the dungeon. Kaito took advantage of the confusion and chaos caused by all this to move as fast as he could through the shadows, hiding behind one of the large pillars, taking advantage of the distraction of the goblins while they try to understand what was happening. The goblins, still uncertain and suspicious, first begin to investigate with glances, moving toward the collapsed potions rack to investigate. But the shaman goblin's attention was caught only for a few moments, and he soon refocuses on the cauldron before him. Possibly, he thought it was just some dumb goblin making all this mess. That's great, Kaito thinks, and with a hopeful smile, he raises his head. As the goblins crowd around the fallen bookcase, Kaito waits anxiously and watches with his own eyes as the glowing particles of the sleeping potion scatter in the dense smoke, which was a product of the mixing of the various types of essences, potions, and chemicals, and the falling bookcase. The smoke is dense, and the goblins, as they are not really what you can call smart, go inside the smoke without realizing it and soon begin to feel the sedative effect. Not only can they not see anything around them, but their eyelids become heavy as they lose control of their bodies. A few seconds later, the thudding sounds of the goblins falling to the ground are heard by the other monsters, who have not taken any chances, and by the shaman goblin, who looks over his left shoulder, as if it finally caught his interest. One by one, several goblins fall into a deep sleep, and Kaito watches the effect of the potion with a glad smile on his face. There is now a large portion of the goblins neutralized, leaving significantly fewer enemies to contend with. Taking advantage of the gap in surveillance, Kaito silently moves towards Ishikawa, as the superior goblins that were near him were also attracted by the crash of the fallen bookcase. Lord Ishikawa is tied to a stake, and upon seeing his approach, he stares at him with a mixture of disbelief and hope. Kaito! Are you alive? Whispers Ishikawa, but his voice barely left his dry lips. Kaido makes a sing with one of his fingers, asking Mr. Ishikawa for silence. He doesn't want to run the risk of getting discovered after everything he did. Nodding silently, Ishiwaka understands the message and keeps his mouth shut. With careful movements, Kaido removes the dagger from his belt and begins to cut the ropes that bind Ishikawa's hands to the stake. The tight knots quickly loosen, and after regaining the mobility of his arms, it was still tingling in his extremities after so much time with the rope. There was a strong red mark on his wrists, with even some blood. Ishikawa looks at Kaido with gratitude in his eyes. Although he feels his words are needed, the emotion in his gaze says it all. He is so happy that he could hug Kaido. However, they both know that there is still much to be done to get out of this place alive. Kaido prepares to sneak over to the railing where Maya, Ayumi, and the others are, but suddenly a warmth fills the room. Ishikawa and Kaido look toward the shaman goblin and see that he is raising one of his hands and forming a sphere of fire in the palm of his hand. His red eyes glow with mischief as he looks directly at Kaido and Ishikawa with an evil grin that shows off all his fangs. Quick! Kid, we need to find cover! Ishikawa shouts and tries to pull Kaido behind a nearby pilaster. However, Kaido knows that hiding is no longer an option now. He has enough experience fighting Mortal Tower bosses to say that it is impossible to hide from a boss inside your own room. As the fireball forms in the shaman goblin's hands, glowing with a frightening intensity, Kaido's heart races and adrenaline courses through his veins. He knows he needs to act quickly, so he shouts to the leader of the group, "I will distract the shaman goblin and meanwhile you will help the others. We're going to need as much help as possible if we really want to beat this monster." For the first few moments, Ishikawa is hesitant, only when he sees how Kaido starts to run, the fright about how agile this boy is overrides his fear of seeing him die. The room around Kaido becomes a blur to him, and he focuses exclusively on the shaman goblin and his fireball. Kaido's muscles twitch and, with a fluid motion, he quickly ducks, narrowly avoiding the first flash of flame thrown in his direction. The impact of the fireball against the ground shatters everything, and the shaman goblin exclaims as he points at it, "Budagra Anik!" The attention of all the remaining goblins, superior and common, immediately turns to Kaido, who is running towards the shaman goblin. At that moment, the young man's body seems to unfold in a choreography of movements, as if following an invisible score, because he becomes even faster because of fear, and with one agile leap he launches himself to the side, dodging the shaman goblin's second fireball. His movements are precise, demonstrating years of training and experience that don't actually exist. In his time perspective, just a few days ago Kaido was just a fat, sedentary boy. With impressive speed, Kaido moves toward the shaman goblin. His feet barely touch the ground as he moves with dexterity. He uses his agility to avoid the burning flames dancing in the air, passing close to them with supernatural grace. "I'm doing it! I can't believe I'm actually doing it!" In a moment of pure elegance, Kaido leaps once more, spinning in the air with tremendous ease. The goblins, in their frustration, try to keep up with Kaido, but they fumble, collide with each other, and end up becoming an obstacle to themselves. "I can do this," he thinks, looking back and watching this scene. Chapter 19 Fireballs. The fireballs thrown by the shaman goblin quickly begin to overrun the hall. The monster was so annoyed by Kaido's agile movements that he couldn't stop throwing fireballs, one after another. The attacks were hitting the floor, the walls, the pillars, and even some of the smaller goblins, but in no way it was able to hit Kaido, although they were always passing close to him, illuminating the determined eyes and concentrated expression on the awakened man's face. Luckily, Kaido's body moves in perfect harmony against the impending threat, defying even his own expectations. The truth is that Kaido is much more agile than any ordinary human being and surprisingly faster than ranky awakened ones usually are. Every movement is precise, giving the feeling to others that he is having fun in this dance with death, while Kaido was only thinking about how he really wanted to keep exploring this world. "I can't die!" Or rather, I don't want to die. I have so many things to do yet. I'm so young. As Kaido inevitably approaches the shaman goblin, he carefully watches every detail of his enemy. The boss's large, exposed fangs glow with the promise of destruction, showing how sharp they are, and his fiery red eyes seem to contain evil darkness. Kaido knows that he needs to get rid of the horde of goblins that is chasing him closely before he has to deal with this shaman. Leaping deftly into the air and doing a pirouette that even he cannot explain how he did, Kaido avoids another fireball, feeling the intense heat on his skin as it passes close to him. His feet barely touch the ground again, and he already has to act again. He slides across the ground like a shadow and passes between the legs of a superior goblin who was trying to surround him, and then the monster he just dodged is run over by the flood of goblins who are chasing Kaido. The other awakened people watch Kaido in awe and amazement as he struggles to stay unharmed. Ayumi looks at Kaido and asks aloud to the others, "Hadn't that boy lost his right arm? It must have been your impression because of the adrenaline. Nobody gets an arm back like that out of nowhere." Bora states, getting up with difficulty from the frozen ground. "Yeah, I think so." Ayumi says, "Hang in there a little longer, Kaido. I'm almost getting it." Ishikawa thinks as he cuts the bars of the reinforced wooden cage with his water blade. While the awakened ones look forward to their freedom, Kaido continues on his fierce fight against the goblins. His agile movements show impressive dexterity, surpassing many of his previous skills, and he was feeling like his stamina was almost infinite. Perhaps the reason was his new form as a vampire. Dodging the goblin attacks was extremely easy, and with his new speed, he could take every single opportunity to counterattack. But even with this strange advantage, he was still getting pressed as the goblins get closer and closer to being able to grab him. Amidst the chaos of the battle, Kaido spots a group of smaller goblins preparing to take their bows. This could be a problem because if besides the common goblins and the fireballs, Kaido has to worry about arrows, he will really be in trouble. Without wasting any time, he launches himself toward them, using his amazing speed to reach them in seconds. However, just as Kaido is about to attack them with the southern dagger, suddenly the goblins are enveloped by a purple aura and are lifted into the air. The goblins themselves look surprised, but Kaido is not. The boy looks back over his shoulder, already knowing what to expect, and sees the shaman goblin with his right hand extended forward. Using psychokinesis sure isn't fair. Kaido shouts, "That's black magic!" The shaman goblin, frustrated that his fireballs are having no effect, begins to hurl ordinary goblins toward Kaido with psychokinesis. The goblins fly, trying to grab the awakened young man. At first, they crash to the ground, failing miserably in their aim, but the shaman continues to hurl them relentlessly. Kaido continues to dodge the falling goblins, deviating from the trajectory pointed out by the boss. However, amidst the chaos, a goblin manages to cling to Kaido's back, desperately holding on and trying to bite his skin. The grip surprises Kaido, but he quickly reacts, grabbing the goblin by the neck and throwing him away. "Bastard!" Kaido growls, annoyed at the boss's audacity. As he fights off the falling goblins, Kaido realizes that there is no longer any way to put off the inevitable. He needs to put an end to all of this, and if the shaman goblin has not gone to attack him directly so far, there is a reason for that. So Kaido dodges the goblin's claws and speeds up his steps to get to the shaman goblin faster. His quick movements allow him to advance even among several enemies who try to surround him. In addition, he swings the southern dagger without a second thought and listens as he does so. "You killed a common goblin. You gain plus 200 XP. You killed a superior goblin. You gain plus 1000 XP. You have leveled up. You killed a common goblin. You gain plus 200 XP. You killed a superior goblin. You gain plus 1000 XP. Moving closer and closer to the shaman, Kaido looks for some kind of breach. He knows that defeating the leader will weaken the goblin horde and also finish this portal and thus put an end to all this. So this is all he needs. Adrenaline rushes through his veins as Kaido concentrates on his goal. He ignores the pain of minor scrapes and burns, determined to kill the shaman goblin and put an end to that infernal confrontation. The shaman goblin is almost 4 meters tall and is genuinely intimidating to any low-level awakened, but Kaido no longer fears it. In fact, he is eager to kill him, so he smiles. And when the other awakened ones in the group see Kaido smiling even with a horde of goblins behind him, they feel a unique chill that makes their jaws drop. Who the hell is this kid? They wonder in unison. Chapter 20 Grow. The last few hours definitely made Kaido grow, both as a person and as a warrior. And all the fear he felt a few minutes ago simply vanished for the excitement of facing death head-on. Moreover, Kaido also noticed that his agility was far above any of the goblins. Even compared to the superior goblins and their stringy defined muscles, he was faster, more agile, and able to react in the split of a second. This realization brings him a glimmer of hope, as it means that in any fight, as long as he doesn't let himself be exhausted, he still has the chance to win. With this awareness in mind, he launches himself into a frenetic race, driven by the force of his will. Every fiber of his body strives to outrun the pursuing goblins, his muscles moving in perfect synchrony, his feet touching the ground with the lightness of a dancer. He dodges the attacks, dodges the onslaughts, leaping and spinning with dexterity, ever more determined to remain tireless. A sense of speed and freedom envelopes Kaido, and he feels that what was once impossible is now no longer. I can win! As he flees from the goblins, Kaido faces the shaman goblin and lunges toward him. For his part, the shaman goblin grits his teeth, furious at the audacity of this little being. Adi Garmali Zika! The boss shouts, and his language remains incomprehensible to everyone but the goblins, who immediately stop running for that reason. At that moment, the other awakened ones who are in Kaido's group start to leave the wooden cage, finally freed by Ishikawa, but the next thing they know, the horde of goblins is running toward them. They are all startled and prepare to run as well, only to soon realize that there is something wrong in the goblins' countenances. Why do they look so scared? Ishikawa asks as he helps one boy in the group to his feet. Scared? No, they look terrified of something. Ayumi states and breaks a part of the cage with her foot to grab a board. Look! Maya points to the shaman goblin. The boss is standing with his right hand inside his long black cloak, removing something from his waist. The shaman goblin still had a card up his sleeve this whole time, or rather, he was just toying with Kaido until now. The monster suddenly takes from the inside of his cloak a crystal orb, which shines in his left hand. Kaido doesn't hesitate to keep running towards the shaman goblin at first, but soon a distant memory comes to his mind. This memory is of the silhouette of a very respected wizard from Mortal Tower, who not coincidentally was wearing an orb identical to that of the shaman goblin. Remembering this makes Kaido's eyes widen. An orb of avarice? What the hell does such a rare item do to goblin shit? Kaido wonders and stops abruptly in mid-stride. His feet sliding on the smooth stone floor and kicking up some dust, but unfortunately it's too late to avoid the consequences. The crystal orb begins to emit an eerie energy, and a blinding glow fills the place. The shaman goblin smiles mischievously, relishing Kaido's vulnerability. In an instant, Kaido feels his body being enveloped by an invisible force and his red hair begins to rise, and then thunder crashes down on him, rushing through the hall with its thunderous sound. The thunder spreads through the hall, filling the air with electricity and causing the ground to shake. Kaido was still unable to move as he feels the electrical discharge go through his body. The power of the lightning travels through his veins, causing the greatest pain he has ever felt in his life and weakening his endurance. An ordinary human would certainly not survive such a blow. Despite the agony, Kaido does not allow his consciousness to fade. With all his strength, he fights against the pain while biting his own lips. With the strong impact of the thunder, the entire environment was submerged by momentary smoke and dust. And Kaido is inside all this smoke, still standing somehow, but totally static and with even his fingertips trembling. As the smoke dissipates, revealing the result of the shaman goblin's attack, Kaito is revealed, standing with great difficulty and totally bewildered. Even with such a start, his eyes were shining with fury and resilience. This enemy will not defeat me even with a greater power. Kaito's mind was completely focused on destroying his opponent. With a firm step, he advances toward the shaman goblin, ignoring the pain and weakness that still afflicts him. Everyone was looking at Kaito with surprise and fright. How can he be standing after such a blow? His body is pulsing with electricity from the lightning, and yet he intends to continue? The shaman goblin is furious and frustrated with Kaito's resistance, so he prepares to launch another thunder attack with the orb in his hand. This time, Kaito will definitely not be able to resist. The boss's eyes gleam and his sinister smile shows pleasure in causing the boy pain, only to hear him grunt again. Kaito, however, doesn't look worried. He stares at the shaman goblin with his eyes reflecting resilience. I bet you underestimated my power and my will to win, and now that you're afraid of losing, that's why you're using everything you have, he says in a teasing tone. No matter what you do, I will still be right here. So you can come, send everything you have there. The boss doesn't understand what Kaito is saying, only that he doesn't like his expression one bit. That being the case, he holds the orb of avarice tightly in his left hand as it prepares to launch another thunderbolt. The orb glows as before, and Kaito's hair stands up as it did just before the last thunder struck him. However, just as the thunder is about to fall, suddenly a water knife cuts through the air, across the room, and hits the orb right in the center, making it crack and stopping the magic that is in progress. The shaman goblin is momentarily paralyzed. His expression of surprise replaces his earlier malice. Drak, he mutters, unable to comprehend what has just happened. At that moment, a cry of enchantment echoes through the hall. By the power granted to me by Gaia, I heal any harm done to this poor mundane body. A bright aura envelopes Kaito's body, and he feels a sense of warmth and healing, as if he is being embraced by an angel. He also smells spring lightly. Then he lifts his head, looks back, and sees Maya running towards him with her eyes full of determination. I got it right. That's it. Hang in there, Kaito, says Maya in a voice of surprise at first, but full of excitement. I'm here to help. In the same field of vision as Kaito is Ishikawa, with a determined look and a smile on his face, holding a water sword in his hand. I think we're even. Now, kid, he says as he cuts off the head of a small goblin. Nevertheless, we're a little busy here. Make an effort to face the boss while we will take care of the others, please. Kaito smiles, a little incredulous and glad that everyone managed to get out of the cage. He then thinks as he turns forward and faces the shaman goblin again, humph. The more experienced ones will stay with the minions while I will stay with the boss. That doesn't seem like a fair deal to me. Chapter 21 Orb of Avarice. The energy of Maya's incantation envelopes Kaito, closing the scratches that spread across his body and face and dissipating the pain that previously afflicted him. The bright aura pulsing around him creates an invigorating feeling in him. Maya gets herself next to Kaito, and her gaze reflects her courage. Are you okay? She asks Kaito, but looking back at the shaman goblin. Yes, thank you for healing me. By the way, are they staying? Kaito asks a question while pointing to the rest of the group. I was able to heal the ones who were most injured, it's just that everyone is exhausted. We're going to have to be as fast as we can. She replies, closing her right hand to grip her staff tightly. This way won't be easy either. The shaman goblin regains her composure after the initial shock and casts a fierce glare toward Kaito and Maya. His expression becomes a mixture of anger and despair at the obstinacy of the awakened youths. The boss holds the orb of avarice, which shatters in his hand, and suddenly lets out a deafening roar. This is our chance! I'm going, so... Cover me, Maya, shouts Kaito and starts running towards the shaman goblin. You can leave it to me. As Kaido moves quickly toward the shaman goblin, his feet touch the ground a dozen times per second and his acceleration speed gradually increases. He holds the southern dagger tightly in his right hand, making sure that he will not let go of it. The boss, blinded by rage, begins to cast spells. Wildly, throwing lightning bolts and fireballs around the room, but none of these spells have the same intensity as when he used the Orb of Avarice, and they don't even come close to hitting Kaido. He is so fast that he moves deftly, dodging the attacks and ruthlessly advancing toward the enemy. Suddenly, a superior goblin appears out of nowhere and tries to get in Kaido's way, but Maya warns him. First, shouting, she said, "On your left, Kaido!" His eyes slide across his field of vision and he spots the enemy. At the same time, a sphere of blue energy is launched by the shaman goblin. Kaido is forced to make a decision in a split second between trying to dodge the energy sphere or the superior goblin. However, he chooses neither of these two options, but instead moves towards the superior goblin. This time, something is different, and the top goblin himself can sense it. Kaido's look has changed. He seems more confident, but that's not all. The top goblin doesn't even have time to think about running away, because Kaido rushes right through him, giving him no time to react. A moment later, the top goblin's head flies off and his blood squirts out. Apparently I did right by investing in strength all the skill points I had, Kaido thinks. As he approaches the shaman goblin, Kaido deftly dodges another weaker bolt of lightning coming his way and leaps into the air to avoid spreading the electricity on the ground. However, this is the shaman goblin's exact plan, because in the air Kaido cannot dodge. The shaman goblin then gives a malevolent laugh and shouts in his strange language, "Farfana Arii, Farfana! Anjesu, Farfana Gypsii, Farfana Guba!" In front of the shaman goblin's palm, for circles with strange signs appear, emanating an eerie energy. The surrounding air begins to tremble and a burst of red energy suddenly erupts with fury, enveloping the entire chamber. Kaido is instantly thrown backwards with overwhelming force, rolling across the floor, struggling desperately to find some point of support. With a Herculean effort, he stabs his dagger into the ground, steadying himself and avoiding being swept away by the overwhelming wave of impact. At the same time, Maya clings to a nearby pillar with her fingers white with tension. For their part, the goblins and the other awakened people are too far away to be hit by the power of the explosion, but they feel a gale. The chamber becomes shrouded in a cloud of thick smoke and debris, obscuring the view of what is to come. When the dust finally begins to subside, Kaido, Maya and the others behold a terrifying sight. The shaman goblin emerges from the smoke with his imposing and frightening figure even larger than before. Now he possesses a gigantic size. On his oblique face, veins bulge with avarice and his fangs seem much larger than before, more intimidating. A deafening roar escapes his lips, echoing through the chamber, and a dark, menacing aura envelopes him. Groyawar! His eyes glow with malevolent intent, heralding the end of what little awareness he had and the increase in his voracity for destruction. His presence is overwhelming, filling the room with a distressing smell. Now kneeling, Kaido stares at the colossal creature with a mixture of contemplation and determination. Despite the powerful blow he has suffered, his will is not shaken. The burning flame of courage still burns in his heart, fueling his resolve. Slowly, Kaido stands up once more, his resolve unshakable. However, the shaman goblin is not oblivious to the fury that consumes him, even with his enlarged form. Moving with a heavy stride, he approaches Kaido, causing another deafening crash. With agile reflexes, Kaido leaps backwards, narrowly escaping the monster's foot. "You are the first giant monster I have faced. Could you please be a little faster?" teases Kaido, with a hint of sarcasm. The shaman goblin, enraged by the insolence of the young warrior, begins to conjure up a new attack. He gathers all the air in his lungs, holding it with both hands while forming a huge fireball. "Eredit Nyla Agna," roars the boss, channeling his evil power. Kaido watches with surprising calm as the fireball takes shape before the shaman goblin. The intense heat emanating from the incandescent projectile radiating toward his face is like a sun. He can't help an exasperated sigh. Why do you insist on using these things against me? Kaido sighs and mutters Kaido as he faces the heat of the impending attack. I've already memorized your pattern. Literally at the last instant, Kaido leaps with all the strength he has in his legs, avoiding the sea of fire that suddenly covers much of the area around them. Maya protects herself on the same pillar where she protected herself from my explosion, while the other awakened people started running as soon as they saw the fireball start. In contrast, Kaido resurfaces from the side of the left-eyed goblin shaman after his powerful leap and attacks with the southern dagger, causing blood to splash on his face. Chapter 22. You've leveled up. With amazing agility, Kaido propels his body upward, narrowly avoiding the shaman goblin's colossal fireball. His daring acrobatics bring him up next to the shaman goblin's face, revealing an unparalleled opportunity. Kaido is right next to the boss's right eye, and without hesitating for a second, Kaido brandishes the southern dagger with impeccable dexterity, directing a sharp blow into the monster's eye. The sharp metal penetrates deep into the scleral flesh of the shaman goblin, ripping out a scream of agony that echoes throughout the chamber. Air! The monster's deafening roar resounds as it is seized by a strong and intense pain. His limbs twitch in spasms, and his left eye is filled with a mixture of fury and suffering. The shaman goblin opens his right hand and slaps Kaido, who is instantly thrown to the ground like a meteor. The awakened young man crashes to the ground with a tremendous impact, feeling the pain spread throughout his body immediately. He spits blood and bounces to the ground like a smooth stone would on a large, calm lake. His vision gets blurry and he almost loses consciousness. Meanwhile, the shaman goblin, still overcome with pain from his wounded eye, plucks the small dagger from his right eye and throws it away, causing it to be stuck in one of the high points of the chamber ceiling. Then he looks at Kaido and approaches quickly, his heavy footsteps echoing through the chamber, getting closer and closer to crushing the young warrior with his immense weight. Maya and the other awakened were watching this scene in horror, feeling despair in their hearts, and with a strong sense of responsibility, she stepped forward to try to heal his bruises and cuts, and suddenly she hears a low whistle. She looks to her left and sees Ayumi fighting 3 ordinary goblins at the same time. Ayumi makes a sign of denial with her head, indicating for Maya not to do what she is thinking of doing. Everyone knows that the battle is coming to an end and that their chance of victory is getting smaller with each passing second. Spending more mana on someone on the brink of death would be a waste. Worried and hopeful, Maya looks at Kaido once more. As he struggles to get up, Kaido feels the pain throbbing in every fiber of his being, but he refuses to give up, to allow the shaman goblin to triumph. With renewed inner strength, Kaido pushes his body up and stands, leaning on his trembling limbs. Looking at the giant monster with a steady gaze, he tries to take a step forward, but his left leg fails him. At that moment, the monster raises his left hand to crush Kaido with the palm of his hand. With her heart filled with thoughts, Maya for the first time abandons the advice of her elders and focuses on what her instincts were telling her to do. She concentrates intensely on her healing magic so as not to make a mistake, closes her eyes, and extends her hands towards Kaido, channeling all her remaining mana. Ancestral power, love emanates, heal my ally, renew your flame. Maya shouts with all the air stored in her lungs. A soft, glowing aura travels in milliseconds the space between them and envelopes Kaido, who feels on the spot Maya's healing magic flow through him. The pain that had previously consumed him slowly begins to dissipate, replaced by a comforting sense of relief. Kaido feels the power restoring his vitality and strengthening his muscles. His wounds begin to close up once more, healing quickly. The weakness that had overwhelmed him turned into motivation, allowing him to stand up. Thank you, Maya. Kaido thanks in thought, because words are not even necessary at this moment, after all the smile that appears on his face is clear. When the shaman goblin finally hits the ground with his right hand, trying to crush Kaido, the young warrior deftly sidesteps, taking the opportunity to grab onto the monster's arm, using it as a temporary platform as he scales with agility. The monster, surprised by Kaido's audacity, tries to swing his arm furiously, but because of all the smoke that had formed from the last fireball, he couldn't see when Kaido switched positions. Without a weapon, there's certainly no point in trying to slice him or apply small amounts of damage, and using life drain on such a large enemy would also be practically useless, Kaido thinks after jumping towards the boss's head. So, I'm left with only one last option to try. Since the shaman goblin is a boss with many minions, Kaido knew from the start that its natural resistance was not great. Therefore, with one agile move, Kaido appears next to the shaman goblin's face in surprise, just like when he hit its eye, only this time he lands a powerful punch directly in the monster's face. As expected, the impact of the punch is devastating. The shaman goblin feels his body being propelled backwards with the force, and he falls to the ground, dropping to his knees. A tense silence fills the chamber, as everyone present watches the result, impressed by Kaido's blow. Wasn't that kid supposed to be a rank E rookie? Ishikawa inquires with wide eyes. Kaido lands on the ground gracefully and stares at the indignant expression of the shaman goblin, whose eyes are no longer glowing, indicating that his mana is almost depleted. Still, the boss grits his teeth, irritated and frustrated. The moment a monster like you can't get your minions in order to protect you, you are doomed to lose, Kaido says, looking at the monster with his chin held high. The shaman goblin's eyes widen and he shouts in fury, "Uttaker nih na!" Kaido closes his eyes and uses life drain, only this time not to suck the boss's blood with his fangs, but to make the claws on his hands grow, and exactly with those claws he cuts the shaman goblin's neck with a sharp blow, decreeing the end of the battle. The dungeon boss has been eliminated. You've leveled up! You've leveled up! You've leveled up! Chapter 23. Exit. As the shaman goblin's head falls heavily to the ground, lifeless. All the corners of the chamber echoes, followed by a tense silence from the goblins, who are extremely frightened. As everyone processes the outcome of the battle, it is impossible for the group of awakened people to contain the explosive feeling of victory. They scream with excitement and relief. For his part, Kaido stands in front of the shaman goblin's giant body and sees some item notifications popping up in front of his eyes. Still, he is more interested in something else for the moment. I wonder if I can sell this giant corpse. No, it's better not to do that. Everyone would be alarmed at such a big thing suddenly disappearing. Besides, they'll probably want the rewards to be split, and I shouldn't be so greedy, Kaido states with his hand on his chin, looking at the headless body of the boss. As Kaido thinks, Maya rushes up to him as she drops her staff on the way and hugs his back tightly. "We did it! We really did win, Kaido!" she says, almost lifting him up with such excitement. At that moment, Kaido was feeling something he had never experienced before. There are a couple of very soft things being pressed against his back, and he can feel it clearly. Nevertheless, Kaido is someone who is very inexperienced in almost every aspect of socializing, but especially on the topic of women. Without knowing how to handle it, he blushes and shy away. The group of awakened still had to deal with all the remaining goblins. However, since they were without their leader, they were disoriented and confused, and the upper goblins lost the physical strength boost generated by the shaman goblin's mana. Thus, despite the difficulties, they managed to kill all the goblins. With the enemies neutralized, the group scoured a few places in the boss chamber for treasure and resources. They also split up the items obtained fairly and strategically, and didn't even ask Kaido about what happened to the bag he was carrying before, because they were too busy thanking him dozens of times for not giving up on them and asking him dozens of questions about how he managed to reach the boss's hall alone. Meanwhile, Maya used her healing magic to treat the group's wounds, while Ayumi, with her tracking ability, identified the fastest way back to the portal. And when they finally went through the portal back to Earth, they were greeted by a crowd of people, both support members who were already on standby for their return, as well as ordinary people and police officers from the security area. Applause echoed throughout the room as the awakened ones emerged from the portal. At first they were surprised, but then they were happy for all the attention. After all, they were rank E, not used to all of this. However, suddenly a team of officials in suits came through the crowd and approached the group. They asked who was the leader of the expedition and addressed Ishikawa with compliments and congratulations on the victory in the dungeon. Then they began to ask a series of questions to get detailed information about the raid. At that moment is when Maya looks to the right and realizes that Kaido is no longer beside her. She looks around, searching for him, and scans the surroundings with her eyes, even asking the other members of the group if anyone has seen him, but by now Kaido is more than invisible at the crowd. While everyone is celebrating the triumphant return of the Awakened Ones and his friends are giving interviews. Because apparently the portal has taken on a different shade of blue than the standard blue, Kaido distances himself. Like it or not, he was just an infiltrator and he could be in trouble if they found out about him. As Kaido turns the corner and enters a busy boulevard, he takes one last look back. Everyone seems happy and he is for sure was too. After all, he has managed to become much stronger than if he had simply stayed at home. Then he looks forward and takes a deep breath. It is a pleasure and a relief for him to be back. Time to get some rest, he thinks with a smile on his face. Kaido prepares to go home, but when he looks to his left, he sees a man in a suit like the others. This man has an elegant appearance, his hair is blonde and short, and his eyes reflect an intriguing intensity. Kaido is wearing a hood and was about to go the opposite way from his house just to avoid this man, but the well-dressed man extends his hand to Kaido, holding a white envelope. "I know what you did," says the man in a soft but firm voice. Startled, Kaido looks at him with fear and doubt, as he is pretty sure he got out of the awakened group fast enough that no one noticed. "What's that? Who are you?" Kaido asks, looking at the man suspiciously and with even more uncertainty at the white envelope. "Do you really want me to explain it here in front of everyone? Or would you rather take the envelope?" the mysterious man replies. "Can I just take it and go?" Kaido inquires. The man shrugs his shoulders, practically answering in the affirmative. Kaido looks at the mysterious man suspiciously, but a sense of urgency pushes him to make a quick decision. He decides to simply take the envelope and walk as far away from the mysterious man as he can, without seeking further explanations at this point. Without looking back, Kaido still goes in the opposite direction to where his house is, just in case, and holds the white envelope firmly in his hands. The man continues to watch him for a few meters, but when Kaido looks back for the last time, the man disappears. The young man's heart beats fast as he searches for a safe and quiet place. Finding a dingy, cramped alley nearby, Kaido looks around and enters the isolated space. He leans against a wall and takes a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline rush through his veins. With trembling hands, he looks at the envelope and remembers the blonde man. Surely he was someone from the Alliance, an official probably, like those who were already waiting at the portal exit. Kaido briefly reflects on whether or not he should open an envelope delivered by someone from the Alliance, because not long ago they rejected Kaido's formal request for his father to receive medical aid. Thanks to this, Kaido repudiates the Alliance more than anything else. Still, he can't stop thinking about what happened. Curious and a little nervous, Kaido decides that he cannot have any more fears. After all, it is his fears that have kept him from living until today. Carefully, he slides his finger under the seal and opens the envelope. Chapter 24. On Mount I get weaker when I'm exposed to the sun. Yeah, I'll write this down, Kaido says with his right hand out of his window. There is a small cut on the palm of his hand, created by himself, which heals more slowly. Then, when he turns his hand back inside the apartment, the cut closes almost instantly. Sheesh! Lucky the portal I entered didn't take me into a desert or Something, otherwise I'd surely be dead right now," he says, throwing himself onto his bed. As his head touches the pillow, he slowly turns to his left and his eyes coincidentally rest on the white envelope on his dresser. This effortlessly reminds him of last night, when he stopped in the alley to look at the contents of this envelope he received from a stranger. 10:46 p.m. on June 20th, 2070, aka the night before. Kaido felt mixed emotions as he stared at the envelope in his hands, but his curiosity overcame his distrust of the Alliance. So he opened the envelope and turned it upside down so the letter would fall out. However, to his surprise, it was not a letter that fell into his left palm, but a circular object, made of metal and with an inner circle made of glass. Kaido recognized this. After all, he had seen some of these before during his troubled time in compulsory education. A holographic disc? He asked, surprised, and placed the disc on top of a trash can near him, which caused the video recorded on the device to start playing. The light coming out of the glass circle came to life and a man with gray hair and black skin appeared before Kaido. His voice proved deep and full of authority as he began to speak. "Recently, highly elevated gamma waves of unknown origin have been detected in safe area Z4. The intensity of the gamma waves is an indication of great risk, so more dangerous and unstable portals will appear in the coming days. However, in addition to these waves also posing a potential risk to citizens, with the possibility of increasing the number of cases of lethargic encephalitis, if not properly regulated and controlled, there will be a risk to all awakened people, who may feel their powers more unstable as well," continued the man in the video. Kaido's eyes widened and he was also certainly relieved because that seemed to be more of a general warning than a specific message for him. Thus, awaken ones who do not register with a local association or government office and do not follow the guidelines set by the Alliance could become a threat, both to themselves and to society. We are here to offer guidance and support and to ensure that your skills are used in a responsible and beneficial way. We strongly recommend that if you are an unregistered awakened, you register as soon as possible to receive the proper training, ensure everyone's safety, and fight for your world. Together we are stronger. At the end of the message, the Alliance representative emphasized that Safe Area Z4 had been identified as an area of special interest and that they will be closely monitoring any activity related to the awakened in that region for the next few weeks, including monitoring the awakened as well. Kaido was silent at the end of the message, processing the information he had just received. He felt a mixture of concern and curiosity. On the one hand, he understood the importance of regulating his condition, especially if it posed a danger, but on the other, he wondered about the Alliance's real intentions and how this would affect his freedom. The hologram concluded its message with a final warning. The decision to register is free. But remember that we are here to help you ensure that your potential is used safely and effectively. We await your cooperation or your surrender. Finally, the hologram disappeared, leaving Kaido with a whirlwind of thoughts and decisions to make. Thus, throughout the night he pondered the Alliance's words about the risks and benefits of registering. Returning to present times, Kaido stands up. After staring at the white envelope for a few seconds. Like it or not, they're right. And until I have a record, I won't be able to go to Celestial Abode or rise in rank officially. Kaido says, and then looks at his web link, which is next to the white envelope. But first I need some money for registration and for equipment. Time to test that option. Kaido takes the web link and fits it to his left wrist, which makes a window appear before his eyes. Connecting. Open merchant shop. Kaido professes as he walks through his small apartment. A large system window opens before Kaido, displaying two different parts of the store at the same time. However, Kaido is not interested in the items this time, but rather how much money he has. Current amount, 700 bronze coins. This amount was how much Kaido got after selling some items obtained from the portal that he judged would not be useful, such as monster remains, normally used only by smiths and alchemists, as well as other found resources that he had no use for. Obviously, none of these items were the rare items he obtained after defeating the shaman goblin. Open inventory. Opening inventory, Kaido's. Inventory, shaman goblin prey, 2x, scroll of magic detection, 1x, amulet of magic resistance, 1x, lucky stone, 1x, map of the safe area Z4, 1x, magic crystal fragment, 1x, dot. Kaido carefully examines his inventory and bitterly remembers that he lost a meridional dagger after stabbing it into the eye of the shaman goblin. That reminds me that I'm going to have to buy another weapon. That's bad, I practically lost money. Anyway, this is a handy passive skill, claims Kaido over his inventory as he pulls the magic crystal fragment out of what appears to be a portal. Sell. Do you wish to sell the item magic crystal fragment to the merchant? Kaido immediately clicks yes. You receive 300 bronze coins from the merchant. Now I have enough money to test that other function that was mentioned in the beginner's manual. Kaido opens the merchant store again, but this time he clicks on his amount. Opening the new window, Kaido examines the options that appear. 1. Exchange bronze coins for silver coins. 2. Convert coins to credits. 3. Send feedback on the merchant shop. Kaido hesitates for a moment, but even after thinking a bit about how he could spend this money, he knows that he needs to convert his coins to credits, so he will be able to buy other things in ordinary stores, not to mention that the merchant has almost abusive prices for the ordinary things he offers. Also, if he wants to go to the celestial abode, he can't go with just a simple dagger as he did to enter the dungeon. He will need basic things that are not offered at the merchant's store. However, while Kaido lives his life normally, even after infiltrating a dungeon posing as someone else, the consequences come for someone else. Many blocks away from Kaido's building, on the rooftop of a high-rise and security building in the center of safe area Z4, a fat, balding man looks very angry. What do you think you've done, Ishikawa? I paid you enough for you to take my son on your first foray, and yet you betrayed my trust. The man hits the iron table hard, causing a loud bang. Calm down, Mr. Willian. I am sure your son was there. In fact, he saved all of us. What are you talking about? The man asks, closing his eyes angrily. Ooh! Do you think you can fool me using cheap psychology? No, Ishikawa, not today. We've been buying the items from your group's raids for a few months now, and I thought we could trust you, but it seems we were wrong. Guards! Guards! Take this man out of here and throw him among the rats in the basement. Wait, sir! What have I done? Don't give me that clueless talk. While you're eating rat shit, give some thought to what words you will use at our next meeting. No, Mr. Hammond, please! Asterisk, you have earned 5 evil points for slander. Huh? What's that? Kaido wonders. Chapter 25 Streets of Safe Area Z4. The Alliance is the closest to a world government that humanity currently has. It is this organization that coordinates the associations that run the security areas, the major guilds, and also the awakened ones. In other words, the Alliance has influence, so it automatically has power, and with such, it also has an almost almighty influence in every single field of society. However, it is clear that the Alliance didn't gain influence from anything. Behind it, besides great political figures from the past and present, there are also several very generous sponsors who, with the help of the influence of the Alliance itself, get even more money. Among the sponsors of the Alliance are mining companies, technology companies, entertainment celebrities, oligarchs in the energy production business, and others. Behind this whole organization is a lot of dirty business, and everyone knows it, especially the most at risk and the poorest. Kaido was always poor compared to even the middle-class people who were lucky enough to work as employees in industry, politics, or in a guild. Unlike many, he usually had something to eat, but his neighborhood has always been the worst of the worst in safe area Z4. The alleys are dirty, permeated with a disgusting smell, and cars squeeze into the narrow streets between the overpasses whose trucks and trains pass by, carrying goods to the more well-to-do neighborhoods. And even though he is poor, Kaito never even dreamed of being able to get a lot of money. The closest he came to having a luxurious life was in the game Death Tower, yet since with each floor he climbed he needed better items, he could never accumulate much capital even in the game. In this way, Kaito was indoctrinated from a young age into the idea that he was destined to be poor, perhaps because of the extremely nepotistic system of the world, or because he used to be too incompetent to fit into the minority that could manage to live a good life built on merit. However, he could hardly imagine that his expectations were about to change when he chose to convert his bronze coins to credits, i.e. real money. You chose option 2, convert coins to credits. The minimum amount needed to perform this operation is 1,000 bronze coins. You have 1,000 bronze coins. Converting amount to credits. You have received 10,000 credits. When the amount of credits resonates in Kaito's ears, he almost falls backward. His eyes widen and his mouth drops open in a mixture of surprise and admiration. He feels a whirlwind of emotions runs through his body in a single instant as he tries to assimilate the magnitude of this amount. With his eyes fixed on the window displaying the number of credits he has received, Kaito slowly sits up in his bed so as not to fall on the floor. His trembling fingers press against the edge of the mattress, seeking some support for his dazed mind. He needs a few seconds to process the reality of this situation. Is that true? Whispers Kaito to himself, unable to contain his disbelief. He rubs his eyes, fearing that it is only a passing illusion. However, the window persists, displaying the amount that now represents to him a new reality. It can't be. He asserts and stands up, awestruck. Still somewhat bewildered, Kaito shakes his head, as if trying to shake off the feeling of unreality that envelopes him. He examines the numbers again, checking to see if there is a mistake. But no, this amount is real and has already been added to his bank balance. 10,000 credits, mutters Kaito, letting out a sigh of surprise. That's far more than the triple my father left for me. A middle-class family of 4 could easily live for a few months on all that, and now this is mine. While processing the magnitude of the amount, Kaito begins to imagine the possibilities that have opened up before him. He thinks of all the things he could do, and the thought of escaping the dirty, inequality-filled environment that is Safe Area Z4 gains momentum in his mind. Nevertheless, Kaito takes a deep breath and thinks further about how he should use this money. No, I can't spend it on bullshit. Kaito talks to himself as he stands up and puts on his shirt. I don't know how much it costs to apply for the duelist license, so first of all I need to figure this out. Duelist is what the awakened are called who choose to venture through the portals and also into the celestial abode. Not all awakened ones decide to risk their lives, and although it is the minority, some choose to live an ordinary life even after waking up from a sleep that is nearly impossible to wake up from. I'd better run if I want to find an open association office that isn't full. Asterisk. The streets of Safe Area Z4 stretch like an intricate maze of concrete and neon, immersed in a chaotic and ruinous atmosphere. Time has not been kind to this city of a few 100,000 inhabitants, not even the local association administration. The tall buildings rise in droves, displaying holographic advertisements that flash and flicker like lures for different products, which are being robotically advertised by human faces that may not even exist, created by artificial intelligence. Buy All Waters fluid supplements, the best way to keep your body hydrated and happy. Augment your body with nanorobots now for only 50,000 credits. News! The glorious awakened Lucius reaches level 7 of the celestial abode. And he says he'll make a big announcement soon. Kaito emerges from his modest apartment and enters the sea of people hurrying along the sidewalks. The flashy signs, flashing holograms, and loudspeaker advertisements compete for the pedestrians' attention, and the distorted beats of electronic nightclub music permeate the air, mingling with the shrill sirens of emergency rooms and the constant roar of engines, but none of this is able to break Kaido's concentration. Determined, Kaido puts on his hood as he is accustomed to doing. Then he puts his hands in his pockets and makes his way towards the commercial zone where the nearest association offices are.